Picture a construction site at 6 in the morning. A contractor opens the back of a red van. Inside, rows of red tools, perfectly organized, all identical in color, all bearing the same logo. He grabs a rotary hammer and walks to the concrete wall. He did not buy that tool. He will never buy that tool. He pays a monthly fee for the right to use it. And if it breaks today, a replacement will arrive tomorrow morning. You cannot buy a Hilti tool at Home Depot. You cannot buy one on Amazon. You cannot walk into any hardware store on Earth and find one on a shelf. A company worth $6 billion has decided you are not its customer. 6.3 billion Swiss francs in annual revenue. 34,000 employees across more than 120 countries. 5 CEOs in 84 years, the most stable leadership in the tool industry. Now here's what those three facts mean together. Hilti does not compete with DeWalt on price. It does not compete with Milwaukee on marketing. It does not sit on a shelf next to a $49 drill in a blister pack. It competes on a dimension that no other tool company in the world occupies. And it has been winning there for 70 years. You would assume that refusing to sell through retail, refusing to list on Amazon, refusing to stock Home Depot would be commercial suicide for a tool company. Every other manufacturer competes for shelf space, for distributor relationships, for the consumer who walks into a store on a Saturday morning looking for a drill. Hilti sends a salesperson directly to the contractor's job site. The salesperson demonstrates the tool on the contractor's own concrete. The demonstration is the sale. The sale is the demonstration. And then, increasingly, Hilti doesn't sell the tool at all. It leases it. By the end of this video, I'll show you the specific reason why Hilti makes more money when its tools don't break, which is the exact opposite of how every other tool manufacturer in the world is structured. Subscribe now before we get there, because that inversion is the most underrated business model in the construction industry. Picture Liechtenstein in 1941, a country of 12,000 people. No airport, no military. Wedged between Austria and Switzerland in the Rhine Valley, 160 square kilometers. In a garage in the town of Scharn, two brothers are setting up a machine shop. Martin Hilti is 26. His brother Eugen is 30. They take contracts for whatever needs to be machined. Gear wheels, mechanical parts, components for anyone willing to pay. The wartime origin carries a history the company has documented and acknowledged. Martin Hilti was involved with a Nazi-sympathizing movement in Liechtenstein. He edited its newspaper, which published anti-Semitic content. He volunteered for Waffen-SS training in Germany. He was never deployed to the front, but the connections helped secure production contracts for the German armaments industry. The company grew to more than 100 employees during the war. At the end of his life, Martin Hilti acknowledged having served what he later called an inhuman regime. The war ended. The contracts vanished almost overnight. A company with more than 100 employees suddenly had no customers. For 3 years, Hilti survived by manufacturing egg cup molds, cigarette lighters, and pencil sharpeners. In 1948, 3 years after making egg cup molds, Martin Hilti acquired a patent for a powder-actuated nail fastening system, a tool capable of driving a steel fastener directly into concrete using a blank cartridge. No drilling, no anchor, one trigger pull. The construction industry would never be the same. In 1957, Hilti introduced the DX100, the world's first fully automatic powder-actuated fastening tool. Before the DX100, attaching anything to concrete required drilling a hole, inserting an anchor, threading a bolt. 3 separate operations. 3 different tools. Several minutes for every fastening point. The DX100 replaced all of that with a single pull of the trigger. Here is the detail that makes the Hilti origin story different from an ordinary tool company. The DX100 did not simply improve an existing category. It created an entirely new category of professional construction technology, one that Hilti would dominate for the next 7 decades. From egg cup molds to the world's most advanced fastening system in less than 10 years. The pivot was absolute, and then Hilti made the distribution decision that would define the company for the next 70 years. Picture a Hilti salesperson arriving at a construction site in 1962. He is wearing a Hilti shirt. driving a Hilti vehicle, carrying a Hilti tool bag. He does not hand the contractor a catalogue. He picks up the DX100, walks to the concrete wall the crew poured last week, fires a fastener into it. Then he hands the tool to the contractor and lets him fire it himself. That is the entire sales process. Every other power tool manufacturer sells through distributors. Bosch sells through hardware stores. DeWalt sells through Home Depot. Milwaukee sells through Home Depot and independent distributors. The manufacturer builds the tool, the distributor sells it. The manufacturer never meets the person who actually uses the product. Hilti decided this was unacceptable. The company built its own direct sales force. Thousands of employees visiting job sites across an expanding number of countries, selling Hilti tools exclusively. The salesperson does not walk in trying to sell products. He walks in trying to solve problems. The sale is a consequence of the problem being solved, not the purpose of the visit. The model is expensive. Maintaining a direct sales force of thousands of employees in dozens of countries costs far more than shipping pallets of tools to a distribution center. But it generates something that distribution never can: information. Every Hilti salesperson who visits a job site returns with intelligence about what is not working, what takes too long, which competitors' tools are on site, and why. By 1979, the same year the leveraged buyout era began and KKR started reshaping American corporate finance, Martin Hilti placed all company shares into the Martin Hilti Family Trust. The company became permanently impossible to acquire. No private equity firm could buy what was not for sale. Milwaukee was sold 4 times. Porter Cable was effectively dismantled. Hitachi lost its name. Craftsman was separated from Sears. Brand after brand was acquired, optimized, and resold. The trust ensured none of that happened to Hilti. No financial buyer would ever strip its engineering budget, eliminate its direct sales force, move manufacturing to the lowest cost country, or hollow out the brand for short-term returns. Type trust if you think the family trust structure was the single most important decision in Hilti's history. Or type Salesforce if you think building the direct sales network was the real competitive moat. I read every answer. In 2000, Hilti made a decision that Harvard Business School later published a case study on. Instead of selling tools, it started leasing them. And the economics of that decision are the opposite of everything else in the power tool industry. Welcome back. Picture a contractor managing 500 tools across 8 simultaneous job sites in 3 different cities. Some tools are broken, some are stolen, some batteries are degrading. The contractor has no idea where half of them are. In 2000, Hilti offered a different arrangement. Here is exactly how it works, and why it completely inverts every incentive in the industry. Fleet management works like this. The contractor pays a fixed monthly fee. Hilti provides a fleet of tools matched to the contractor's needs. If a tool breaks, Hilti repairs it for free. If a tool is stolen, Hilti replaces it. If a battery degrades, Hilti swaps it. If a newer model is released, Hilti upgrades the fleet at the end of the contract. The contractor never owns the tool, never pays for a repair, never budgets for replacement. The contractor pays one predictable number every month, and the tools are always there, always working, always current. Here is the inversion that Harvard Business School studied. Every other tool manufacturer profits when the tool breaks. A broken tool generates a replacement sale, a repair charge, a new battery purchase. The manufacturer's financial incentive is for the tool to wear out, break down, and eventually need replacing. Hilti profits when the tool survives. Every repair Hilti performs inside a fleet contract costs Hilti money. Every stolen tool Hilti replaces costs Hilti money. Every degraded battery Hilti swaps costs Hilti money. The manufacturer's financial incentive is for the tool to last as long as possible and work perfectly every day. Here is what the Harvard study found. Customer loyalty under fleet management is 5 times higher than under the traditional sales model. Not because the tools are better. Hilti's tools were already among the best on professional construction sites before fleet existed, but because the contractor who has delegated every tool-related decision to Hilti, who pays a number on a spreadsheet and never thinks about tools again, has no reason to evaluate a competitor. The switching cost is not financial, it is operational. Replacing Hilti fleet means rebuilding every logistics process the contractor has stopped thinking about. Type own if you think contractors should always own their tools outright. Or type lease if you think the fleet model is the future of professional construction. One word. In 2022, Hilti launched the Neuron platform, a unified 22-volt battery system powering more than 100 tools across every category. But the battery is not simply a power source, it is a data collection infrastructure. Every Neuron battery is cloud-connected. Every time it is placed on a charger, it transmits usage data, performance metrics, state of health and location information to Hilti's digital platform. The charger is the gateway. The battery is the sensor. The tool is the subject. The data feeds into OnTrack, Hilti's asset management platform. Every tool tracked in real time. Every operator certification verified. Every maintenance interval scheduled automatically. For a contractor managing hundreds of tools across multiple job sites, knowing exactly where every tool is can be the difference between profitable operations and complete chaos. Every conventional rule of the power tool industry says Hilti's model should not work. You cannot build a $6 billion company by refusing to place your products on retail shelves. You cannot maintain a direct sales force across more than 100 countries and remain profitable. You cannot lease tools to contractors who are used to owning them and expect them to embrace the idea. Hilti did all of it. The company that refused retail generates more than $6 billion a year. The company that sends salespeople directly to job sites instead of hardware stores has had only 5 CEOs in 84 years. The company that leases tools instead of selling them earns more money every year the tool does not break. That is the business model. That is the moat. Martin and Eugen Hilti started with a garage and contracts for gear wheels. They survived the war. They manufactured egg cup molds for 3 years. They discovered powder-actuated fastening. They built a direct sales force instead of filling retail shelves. They placed the company inside a trust no private equity firm could ever acquire. Then they stopped selling tools altogether and started leasing them. Every conventional rule said the model should fail. The company that refuses to sell you its products generates billions of dollars every year from the professionals who rely on them. The garage in Shan is gone. The egg cup molds are gone. The trust remains. The sales force remains. The monthly invoice remains. And every morning, on construction sites around the world, the red tools are still there, working, tracked, maintained, and quietly proving that sometimes the most profitable product is the one you never actually sell.